They call them medicines now, quote unquote,
yeah.
which I think there's an abuse of the word medicine happening, but that's a side note.
Tell us about it.
I mean, it's so funny because it's like like especially in like the ayahuasca world, you talk about plant medicine. It's the medicine, it's healing, it's medicine, blah blah blah.
Holding space drives me crazy.
Holding space is another one, which like I get it. It makes sense, but I've seen people be like, I need medicine. Okay, look, I have all this medicine. Okay, I have ketamine in this box, and I have some MDMA, and I have this and yeah, but it's like, oh, you have your little medicine. It's just like, okay, just call it like a drug stash. Like it's okay. like let's just call it what it is, or let's just call it a substance and just be neutral about it. Right, like whatever. Like the dealer is now the medicine man or whatever. I'm joking. I'm totally joking. But
well, so when you started, you're especially interesting to me because I really like when people follow their passions and then timing crosses nicely with them, and then everyone else is suddenly interested in what they're interested in. So you were doing this before anyone would probably pay you to write a book about it.
Yeah.
So like, you've seen it go from like you're the kind of on the edge to now you're totally in the mainstream, and now everyone is it like annoying to see like everyone sort of co-opting it and like giving it language and all that?
You can say it is.
Can yes like it's not annoying. Like I'm happy that
becomes in vogue. Like when Radiohead gets popular, it bothers the original fans, you know.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's like, you know, like it was always cooler when it was underground or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy that people are seeing the light. No, I'm just kidding. I'm happy that people are like are you know have access are having this conversation, and therefore the conversation is hopefully bringing more access to people who need it or who would ordinarily not even be exposed to it and could legitimately benefit from it. That said, I do notice that there's a little bit of like a sterilization happening where when something becomes mainstream, it loses like that cultural edge to it that I find so captivating. And I also see where it's like, oh, like now that the mainstream is into it and it's like institutionalized and like we can like raise money for this cause and blah, 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 blah. And then the people who have been risking their reputations and their freedoms for the past couple decades talking about this shit are left in the dust. You know, like one of my greatest inspirations, Yosef Needleman, who wrote the book Cannabis Hasidus, he was in jail for dealing weed in Israel. And, you know, like he's also just like a total character and eclectic, and you know is not the guy like you know being the spokesman for the movement on panels and Zoom calls and whatever, but he is Jewish psychedelia incarnate, and I think he deserves that kavod and respect.
The justice for what he's been through, to like give him the public recognition now for some reconciliation for being punished for simply advocating at a time when people weren't ready to hear it, or like when it wasn't acceptable.
And he was talking about cannabis, like his book Cannabis Hasidus. I remember it was very, very edgy.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, you're right. No one's talking about him now. I lived with him for like a week, and it was one of the oddest weeks of my entire life. I still remember the smell of his life. But he sat in like council. People would just come in throughout the day and just talk to him and leave. He was like a guru on like the top of a mountain. It was wild.
Yeah.
Not to get too political, it's like onto this point of like the amount of people sitting in jail for victimless crimes of having to do with weed. And everyone's like, yeah, it's legal now. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, a lot of them are getting out now, I think.
It just seems like a grave injustice. Sort of like people who were arrested for prohibition when alcohol was illegal, and now it's like, you can drink now. It's fine.
Right.
You know, so we just like bat an eye, but it's, you know.
So are you trying to elevate people like that? Like, did you
Absolutely,
ever,
like I really want to pay homage to the weirdos and the hippies and the people who are less palatable to like the Wall Street suits who are like, oh, I could make a business out of this now. I tripped last week, like now I'm gonna like be starting like a VC around psychedelics. Like I'm a hyperbolizing, but it's really not actually so far off. And meanwhile, the people who are like have really integrated the ethos of psychedelics into the way they just hold themselves and walk through the world, like Yosef, you know, again, like I mean, in his circles, like Yosef is the Reb, you know?
Right.
He's definitely one of my Rebs. And I just want to continue to like really make sure that the people who have put themselves out there are getting the respect they deserve.
Yeah. It's interesting because like you're very like ready for mainstream, like you can have a coherent conversation. Like I heard you interview Mountain Girl. Do you know who Mountain Girl is? She was correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry Garcia's wife. it's like unfair how many lives she's lived. She's like lived through the 50s and then was like instrumental in bringing like acid to America, like toured with the Grateful Dead and like the Merry Pranksters, and like I think she was married to Ken Kesey.
Yeah.
And now she's also like on Facebook now. Like she's like she should be like gone, I feel like you can't
She's like
live
growing
that many
weed in
lives.
Oregon or something.
Yeah, but I listened to your conversation and like
I can never get into the dead. I'm just kidding.
but look, you kept asking the same question and she wasn't able to answer it, and like it was like kind of this circular conversation, and it's like the people who did that work are almost like can't be
be the voice of it.
They can't be the voice of it because they have done that work.
Well, it's funny because
It's
like,
had an
I feel
effect
like
on their ability to advocate for it.
Yeah.
totally, and I
little bit.
recognize that it's like it can be alienating to people. Like you need to be. I mean, I feel like people have told me I'm a little bit of like a shliach. Like I'm representing
Right.
like the hippies and the medicine or drugs or whatever it is. And I also like like I do know how to put it like I went to Columbia Journalism School. Like I know how to like hang with like square straight edge people and like hopefully not freak them out too much.
Right.
And
So
I
you can be the medium. So these ideas are.
I was born into that
articulated.
role. Like I grew up in like South Beverly Hills on like in this corner of Pico Robertson and Beverly Hills, and
Shout out.
shout out. I fucking hate LA, but like just kidding. I know I love LA. I love going home and visiting my family. But I went to Beverly Hills High School, and everyone was all the parents there were so square, and like I was just embarrassed about my family. Like there's like. My dad would show up to school functions and like reek of weed and just
growing
like
up
pass.
in New Jersey, it would have been way worse. Trust me.
I mean, my mom's whole family's here in Teaneck.
Right.
So I grew up with normal people around me,
Right.
quote unquote normal, and like I was coming from the freak show, so I had to learn how to present like I'm not like as tripped out as my parents.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you were meant for this in a way. Like,
Maybe.
Since childhood, born in a way so you could have to navigate two worlds, the square and the circle.
What?
It's true.